All right, so you should be the presenter now, and you will have the capability of sharing your screen to show your PowerPoint. There we go.
Give me a second. I am trying to see how to get back to the presentation.
Yes, we're not able to see it right now.
Yes. And I don't know what happened. I can't get back to the presentation.
All right, one moment. Let me see if I can.
Share the camera or the screen.
There we go. We're back. We can see it now.
You can see it now?
Yes. And is it 3 o'clock? It is 3 o'clock.
It is 3 o'clock.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon for the first of our series of 4 presentations about the Latino education model. Today, we have Dr. Gonzalez, who will be providing us with an overview and introduction to the Latino education model. We also invite you to join us for the other presentations scheduled in the series. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we will join Dr. Carmen Arellano as she talks about the 3 pillars of the Latino education model. On Thursday, we'll have another presentation by Dr. Ana Gil Garcia at 2 o'clock. She will be addressing the overarching foundations of the model. And then lastly, on Monday, May 3rd at 3 o'clock, I will be presenting alongside Dr. Ana Gil Garcia, and we will be discussing practical applications of the Latino education model. So thank you all for joining us once again, and I will turn it over to Dr. Gonzalez for his introduction of the Latino education model.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is really a privilege for me to be introducing this wonderful. Can you see the presentation? I think you can see it now. Well, thank you for joining me this afternoon. It is really a privilege for me to introduce to you a really remarkable education model that our faculty, staff, and administration developed at a time when our college was very busy implementing other projects on campus. Today, I'm going to cover 3 topics. 1, to give you a little bit of a background as to why was it that we embarked on this journey. Secondly, the steps that we're taking in developing the model. And third, I will present to you the model that was finally developed. St. Augustine College was founded some 41 years ago. As most of you will agree, much has changed in the last 41 years. Technology has a greater role in our lives. Jobs are requiring more college education. There's a greater number of Latinos in the United States. Currently, there's over 60 million of us, and approximately 41 years ago, I believe that there was only about 12 million of us. And there's a greater desire to graduate students that are work ready, meaning that they have the skills to be successful in their workplace and not just armed with theory. There's also a low participation of Latinos in high-paying jobs and jobs in demands. The other thing that also motivated us was the low graduation rates of Latinos, as well as the low attainment college rates of Latinos. I'm sorry. So as we start thinking about this project, we did an assessment of the environment in higher education, and some of the things that were realized is that there was a desire for more certificate programs. There was also a great drive to move education to online, to an online modality. There's also was a drive for students, or a desire for students to stay closer to home. The demographic of students in the United States is changing. There's a greater number of Latinos and other students that are underserved. Additionally, I already mentioned about the being work ready, but some of the other things that are happening in our country is that the number of students that are living in poverty continues to increase. And additionally, there's a question on whether higher education is as valuable it is once believed. And lastly, there's also pressures, economic pressures on the desire to make higher education affordable to the masses. So these are some of the things that were discussed that further confirm our need to look at our educational model so that we can make it affordable, accessible to the students that we serve. And as we were thinking about this, we realized that there was a need for multiple people and multiple views to be included into the development of this model. So faculty, staff, and administrators, which were many, for me to mention at this time, participated in the design of the model. And I'm very grateful for each of them for the time that they spent in putting all together, because as I mentioned, it was a time when they were working on many other projects. Our college has been adapting and changing during the last 2.5 years. And our faculty, staff, and administrators did a remarkable job in putting this model together. Some of the sources of information that were used in developing this model, obviously, we look at our mission, our vision, where we saw our institution in the future and what we want it to be. We also incorporate best practices in higher education, the research on what was known about how models and how students, the neuroscience of learning, how students learn, and also research on Latinos specifically that dealt with the language as well as the culture and how language and culture benefit and influence our learning. Additionally, two other factors that were very influential on the development of this program is what we know about ourselves. I often speak and say that there isn't anybody else that knows enough about Latinos as we do ourselves. Additionally, I believe that also that our faculty are very experienced and have a lot of knowledge about how to teach and how Latino students learn. So all of this information, best practices, and research and knowledge about ourselves were combined to come up with a very unique and innovative model that I will highlight in a moment. Some of the things that our faculty, staff, and administrator started thinking about is, I think that are captured in this slide. One of them was about modality, how our knowledge was going to be disseminated in the future. We spoke about online education, blended, hybrid, multi-location, things that our faculty have been experimenting over the years. So there was discussions that were held in that. There were also discussions that were regarding the academics in the class calendar. Some of the discussions that were held is about mini semesters, which we ultimately end up going into splitting our semester into 2 terms. But then there were also discussions about what was more beneficial to students, to have the 3.5-hour classes that we now have, or whether we should think about having for our classes to be meeting 4 times a year. 4 days a week. After much discussion, it was decided that we should be meeting twice a week, because some of our students were not able to attend classes 4 days a week. So we had to take in consideration the flexibility and what it was convenient for our students. It is taking in consideration that perhaps meeting twice a week may not be the most beneficial from the learning standpoint. We opted to meet twice a week. We also spoke about enabling technology, meaning is that how are we going to help students to achieve the education, obtain the education that they needed. So that was discussed. And also it was discussed about the learning material. At the time we were using paper books. Now I'm happy to say that we're all using all digital books. This allows our students to obtain their books at a lower cost and also to have them accessible in their laptops. We also spoke about the learning and teaching locations. Some, as most of you will know, at the time we were just providing face-to-face education. But given that we were thinking about an innovative way of delivering our education, we look at multiple locations for us to provide our teaching. So obviously one of the locations that we can continue providing was at our existing facilities. But some of the other options that we thought about is providing the education in the neighborhood facilities. Some options might have been at a Starbucks, libraries, or other public facilities. At the moment, we're not using it, but those are options that I think that are going to continue looking at, so that we can provide the most flexible and accessible education. We also spoke about the course design and the pedagogy. As and some of you will agree, is that there is a tendency for learning to take place when information is presented in smaller chunks. I think that most of us are familiar with the TED Talks. TED Talks are, for the most part, provided in 18-minute lengths, and that is because, for the most part, our brains can capture and keep information in shorter periods of time. The other thing that gives us evidence into how we think and research is think about the length of time between commercials on TV. Most of the commercials are provided to us every 10 minutes, and that's because someone figured out that is the best time when we can retain information. So there were also discussions about the length of time in which we should be providing information, and also about the need of providing learning facilitators. And that's because most of our students that we serve, they're not familiar with the educational systems in the United States. Most of us have not gone to college, so there was a need to provide them with someone that can guide them, someone that can be a big brother or big sister. We also spoke about the support systems that our students need. So not only with faculty, tutors, success centers, and the learning facilitators that I mentioned. When it comes to tutoring, we also spoke about the possibility of expanding that, because now it is not necessary for students to meet with their tutors on a face-to-face basis. We thought, and we need to think about providing tutoring services to our students when they need them, and they might be at 9, 10, or 11 o'clock at night. The fortunate thing now with the internet service is that some of this tutoring service can happen at any time. Think about it, that there might be faculty in California, which is 2 hours behind us, that might be available. So if a student here in Chicago needs assistance at midnight, it's only 10 o'clock in California. So this type of options were discussed and will be considered further in the future. Out of these discussions came out two essential modalities that we were considering on teaching. One of them was the traditional online modality in which all of the classes are provided online and support systems are provided to students online as well. But it was thought that our students, that was not the most appropriate modality for our students. So other modalities were discussed, hybrid, blended, and multi-location, which I already mentioned. And as I will mention in a moment, it was we decided to go with a hybrid type of location. Then we also discussed on what the common components for each of these modalities were. We spoke about expanding into our academic programs into year-round. So we decided to split our 16 semesters into 8 weeks and to make them year-round. So eventually the idea was to provide the summer term year-round. What this allows students to do is to take more courses, to graduate faster. Now students are able to graduate in anywhere from 3 to 3.5 years. Think about the benefits that this provides to our students. Now they may be able to capture an entire year by attending year-round education. That means that if they could earn $50,000, could graduate, that they will be able to start earning those $50,000 a year sooner. We decided that we would keep our courses 4 credit hours for now anyway, so that we would not have to spend time redesigning all of our courses. And we also agreed that students would be able to take 2 courses per term so that they can acquire the most financial aid that they could. So there were a number of other critical decisions that we made. One of them was obviously for our students to participate with, to have laptops, because the laptops are now the pencils and paper of the past. And certainly other discussions were made regarding the design, as already mentioned, in the student support functions that we're providing to students. So after much dialogue, it was decided that our model should be affordable, because affordability is one of the greatest impediments for our students going to college. We also spoke about the accessibility. Many of our students are head of households. They have children, they have parents, they have jobs, and they may not always be able to come to our campuses. So we thought that our education must be accessibility. But we also understand that there are students that prefer to learn in person. And we also, so that's when we spoke about the main attributes of our educational system, which would entail high level of technology, high touch, high support for our students. And 2 other things that go without saying is the high quality of education, and for us to offer programs on demand, so that are in great demand right now, so that our students could be successful. So these were the attributes that motivated our faculty, staff, and administration to think about the type of educational model that should be developed for our students. And as we were thinking about it, there were also discussions about doing pilot program in the summer. So there were discussions about which were the best courses for us to pilot. How were those courses were going to be redesigned so that they could be adapted to the new modality, the faculty, the type of training that we needed to provide training, because this was something new for all of us, as well as the technology. At the time, the college did not have the type of technology that was going to be necessary for the delivery of this new programs. And we also obviously needed to think about which of our facilities were more could be adapted for these new teaching modalities. And obviously communication was also very critical. We thought about the ways that how we were going to be communicating these new programs, well, not only to our students, but also to our faculty, because this program was being developed very quickly by a relatively small group of people, faculty, staff, and administrators. So it was important for us to be able to communicate this expediently to the rest of our students and our faculty. So what you see before you is I'm sorry about this. What you see is the resemblance of what it came to be known as the Latino education model. What you see, the three outer parts forms the foundation of our model, which is excellence, innovation, and knowledge. And this forms the fabric of everything that we do. Everything that we do is focused on excellence and also innovation. The model itself is very innovative. There isn't anything quite like it in the nation that I know of. There are other models that incorporate some of these components, but nothing that incorporates everything that I have been discussing. And something that also makes this model very unique, that is, it was developed by Latinos for Latinos. As I have been saying, I don't think that there's anybody else that knows about ourselves as much as we do. In the three pillars of this model is high touch, high support, and high tech. And once again, it has to do with the knowledge that we have about ourselves, the experience that that our faculty have about how students learn, Latinos learn, and also high technology. I think that you will agree that technology is going to play a major role in our lives, in the way that we teach, the way that we learn, and also the way that we just go about in executing our jobs. So we felt that high technology needed to be a very strong component of our model. And this, although a quick presentation of this model is not something that just happened overnight, but certainly thought a lot of thinking about with our faculty, staff, and other administrators. So with that, it's a quick overview of our model, and I'd be happy and delighted to take any questions that you may have. That I'm sure that there's other faculty and other staff and administrators that can probably answer the questions equally well, if not better than I can. So with that, any questions that you may have, I'd be happy to comment on them.
We also invite you, if you would prefer to type your questions into the chat, we can also take them that way.
While you're thinking of your questions, let me say that I'm very confident that this model that was developed it's going to revolutionize the way that we're teaching, and certainly the success of Latinos. This is a model that there hasn't been any other institution that has developed something like this. And we are and we should be able to implement. The plan is to implement this model fully in the fall. And in the fall, our faculty will be teaching from our facilities, from each of our from my main campus and the satellite locations. And they will be teaching in the three modalities, presenting information in the three modalities in person. We will be able to invite students to come and participate in class in the face-to-face modality, as well as we're going to be broadcasting the classes and recording it. so that if our students are not able to join us in any one, either remotely or in person, that they will be able to see the recording. So they will not be, so they will have the accessibility to their courses at all times. Any questions? While you think about it, let me give you a little bit more information on what we're doing in the way of technology. We are in the process of implementing new infrastructure for the delivery for our internet service. And the plan is for every classroom in each of the facilities to have the required bandwidth and capacity and switching so that you can deliver, so that St. Augustine College can deliver their education online. The next step is for us to examine the video conferencing. We are currently using GoToMeeting, as we all know, but we're examining the new platforms so that we can select the one that is going to help both our faculty and our students in certainly in teaching and learning. The other thing that we're doing is also evaluating classroom technology so that once again we can select the technology that is going to support our curriculum and also it is going to support our students. Our curriculum is something that colleges and universities often forget about. If we forget about the purpose of the technology, and technology purpose is to support the teaching and learning, and certainly the curriculum that takes place through the curriculum. So as we select, I will invite the faculty and others to really think about the curriculum that we are our curriculum, and certainly our Latino model, that we need to make sure that that is both supported. Any questions?
We do have one question here in the chat. This is from Dr. Ana Gil Garcia. She writes, I celebrate the creation of the Latino education model of SAC. It brings direction and guidance on what we do in SAC. Should we expect a revision of the mission and vision of the institution to align it to the philosophical model?
Very good question. And yes, we should. And because the model should support the mission, and also we need to look at our mission in context of the needs of our society. Our mission was developed, as I said, some 41 years ago. So there is a need for us to perhaps update our mission and also to make sure that it aligns with our new educational model, because everything needs to work, should be integrated and work in support of each other. So yes, that's a very good question. Thank you. And let me say also that in the weeks and months to come, we are going to be looking at our vision, yes, for that precise reason. The other thing that we're going to be looking is at our vision. The other thing that our mission is going to inform is also even for the way that we communicate. We are putting together a new marketing plan for St. Augustine College, and even the language and the students the language that we are developing to communicate with our students is also needs to be influenced by our mission and certainly our Latino education model. So everything needs to be working together. So we're going to be inviting members of our community to participate in this exercise for us to review our mission and see if there's any modifications that need to be made. Any other questions?
All right. Well, I don't see any additional questions coming in. Do you have any closing remarks or?
Well, I wanted to thank all of the faculty, staff, and administration that have worked. Initially, there was a small team and who put together the concept, the framework that it was later on further developed by in Research Incorporated. It was now it has evolved into a document that's around 40 or 50 pages. So this framework, this structure that was put together, that was developed, has been now documented, and it has been approved by the Board of Trustees. So now this is going to become the educational model for our institution, and this is going to have a great influence in the years to come, not only for our students, but also for our college. So with that, I would like to thank each of you and all the participants and all of the work that has been done. So thank you, and if there are any questions, you can certainly always know where to reach me, and I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez. Just another very quick reminder, as we're looking at the model here on our screens, we will be discussing again tomorrow at 2 o'clock the inner circles of our model, high touch, high tech, high support. On Thursday, we'll be discussing our outer circles, knowledge, excellence, and innovation. And then on Monday, May 3rd, we'll be discussing practical implementation of all of these aspects of the model. Thank you again, Dr. Gonzalez. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Please contact me if you would like a recording of this presentation. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.